Welcome to the acclaimed podcast, The Deep Dive, featuring your esteemed hosts, Andy Monitor and Drew Dinzik, powered by BetSperts.
Welcome to The Deep Dive. Andy, hope you're doing well. I've been a little distracted this week. NBA's on the horizon. Spent a lot of time today trying to get my numbers in order because they were a mess. I kind of forgot how basketball's played, so it's been a challenge. A little behind on my NFL, so I'm going to have some pretty weak takes today, I think.
It's not a bad week for that. There's just not a lot of spots.
There's really good games.
There's good
really
games.
Good games.
There's not a lot of spots I'm champing in the bed. I'm hoping you can talk me in or out of some stuff. I'm a little behind this week too because I spent way too much time refining how I'm doing my defensive ratings.
Okay.
I didn't like how some of my ratings were like not passing the smell test, the eye test, and a lot of how I decided to do it this year came down to things I decided on in like August. And there weren't games. I wasn't, watching film. I wasn't doing it as a weekly exercise. And I didn't like how it, so I blew a big chunk of a day just refining that. I was happy with the results, and I think it'll pay dividends going forward. Cool. But yeah, I'm like, oh shit, now I'm behind for the week. Good, this is fun. And at least we have a barn burner, absolute skull banger of a Thursday night.
Well, we'll get to that. We have 4 games this week featuring head-to-head between top 12 teams by my rankings. The 1 versus 3 with San Fran KC. We got the 2 versus 12 with Baltimore Tampa. I'm looking at 4 versus 8 with Detroit Mini and 5 versus 6 with Green Bay Houston. So a lot of really high quality teams. We get to do some sorting this week at the top of the board, figuring out, at least for now, here in the middle of October, when it doesn't really matter that much for championships purposes, who's playing best football. And that does not include Thursday night's game. Which, as Andy mentioned, has whiffs of what are the Saints doing here? Not like what do they do, right? Like what are they like? What's their plan?
I gotta give credit because I listened to a couple podcasts over the last couple. I want to say it was Chernoff. I think I'm just gonna give him credit. He called it the reverse Kendall Hinton game. Because it was these two teams.
These two teams, yeah.
I mean, it's not quite that bad. Spencer Rattler has played some quarterback, but I mean, that was an injured team who then lost every quarterback they could to COVID because they're all in the same room doing their meetings together. And then it turned into a really bad game. And I don't think that one was a standalone. That's kind of what separates this. And scoreline in the chat. I've seen some people play this Saints team total under. It was the same people who played it last week and probably deserved better fate.
Yeah,
because
right.
The offense wasn't great. They obviously benefited from
short fields, turnovers.
Short fields, turnover touchdowns. But yeah, we're going to start with an ugly one. We'll get into the fun ones into the weekend.
Okay. So New Orleans, everybody's hurt. No Derek Carr at quarterback. Is Spencer Rattler. No Olave, no Shaheed, probably. So this is the Bub Means, Cedric Wilson, Mason Tipton show at wide receiver. I'm assuming they bring some guys up in the practice squad. Tight ends, Foster Moreau and Juwan Johnson and Taysom Hill may all have featured roles here. Maybe a lot of 3 tight end sets. And then, yes, Alvin Kamara is injured very badly, but is still playing through it. His backups are unspectacular. So this offense is really going to have their work cut out for them, although they do get the benefit of going up against a Broncos defense that will not have Pat Surtain. I don't really have anything to add.
Yeah. This has been a weird one because, and I mean, just for heads up on everything, the Taysom Hill is doubtful. That's sounding like
is he?
Not.
No.
Yeah, they that just recently this afternoon that came out. Doubtful. Derek Carr's listed as doubtful for some reason. He's not playing. Shaheed is having surgery on his knee. It's one of those meniscus things where if it's this thing, then it's not so bad. If it's the other thing, he's out for the year. So we'll find out more on that probably tomorrow.
Is it a classic bucket handle tear, Andy?
I don't know, man. I'm so bad.
Learned a lot about meniscus last year in the NBA
we
playoffs.
Did.
Yeah.
And then Cesar Ruiz and Pete Werner have also been ruled out for Thursday Night Football. This is it's a center-demic. Everyone is out. For every center in the league is on notice. They're coming for you next. This has been nothing but Denver money. And I make this. I didn't know exactly how to adjust with this many injuries. It's hard when you start looking where it's not like a cluster injury. You're not missing everybody at all your linebackers or multiple corners, or I guess at this point it is wide receivers. So you do have that, which is a little different. But when it becomes a offensive line is missing 2 or 3 decent pieces, you're missing your top 2 receivers, you're missing Taysom Hill, your running back is banged up, your quarterback is sitting out, and it's an offensive cluster injury. And I guess I was surprised this total didn't go a little lower. It's still
that's a dome. Maybe that's part of it.
It's 37.
Two inexperienced quarterbacks on short weeks, though. If they're able to run anything complex, then God bless them. I'm fine on. I did play some under here. My fare is 35. Let me ask you this: the problem with Denver, which is now at -3, in order to cover 3, is you got to win. You got to score 4 points more than your opponent. Which, I mean, where's your as someone who's recently revamped their defensive numbers? What's going on with the Saints defense, and do you think there is scope for Knicks to have any kind of a breakout here? Because I'm not exactly sure what's going on with them.
It's been worse, and especially in the run stop, they've had problems up front. The run stop is much worse than I thought they'd be for New Orleans. Still a pretty good coverage unit when they're healthy, still getting some pass rush, but it has not been the complete defense I thought we'd see from this team, especially the start of the year. We saw it against Bryce Young. Wow, this defense looks good. So and this is the main thing. And Drew hit on the biggest point is it is a 4-day turnaround for 2 rookie quarterbacks. We thought Clint Kubiak is, still a decent coordinator. We think we have some experienced coaches up in Denver. It is still a short turnaround to try to install offensive game plans for 2 quarterbacks who've started a combined 8 games now? 6?
Yeah.
6 or this will be week 7.
7.
So
7
6
games.
plus 1. Yeah, 7 games total. So I don't want to I don't want to fade the steam here. This is kind of similar to last week when I said about Denver. I was like, well, I don't think the Chargers are this good. I should take Denver live, and I just can't do it because of who they are. It's the same kind of thing right now with New Orleans. I think this move may have jumped the shark a little for a road team with a rookie quarterback in the offense we've seen. But what am I going to do? Back New Orleans and the New Orleans B squad, especially I hate to throw in this half-assed narrative spot too, but if you're Sean Payton and this is a Thursday game and you're Sean Payton and you're going back to New Orleans for a Thursday game, I think the preparation's maybe a little different offensively. I feel like he might have something. He doesn't want to go down in there and, look bad. I think they'll probably have something installed that they worked on, built on over the last couple of weeks in preparation for this game. He seems petty enough to try to put it on him a little. So it'd be under or nothing for me here because I'm kind of with you there. It's even without Surtain, it's like this is a good week for Surtain to miss because Shaheed and Olave are out, which leaves, a lot of Bubba means.
Yikes, man. Let's move to Sunday.
Maybe another
morning.
receiver challenge before we go.
Well, Cedric Wilson. He had some targets last week, right?
Oh, you did say Mason Tipton already.
Mason Tipton. Has Mason Tipton had a snap this year? That I don't know.
I think he played last week.
I think he had snaps last week. This is the first time in my life I have tried to wrap my head around who Mason Tipton is. And by the way, Cedric Wilson Jr. is limited in practice with an ankle. Is that true? So this could get super duper weird. Could be a lot of tight ends and running back targets in this one. I have
Mason Tipton
no
had
idea.
Two targets for 1 catch and 15 yards last week.
Oh, good for him.
He was no Bub Means. Bub Means had 8.
Yeah, he was
Juwan
huge
Johnson,
part of the
Juwan Johnson was targeted.
Oh man, dude!
This is a Denver pass rush I've upgraded a couple times this year. So
far,
actually,
I take. You know what? Mason Tipton has been on the field for 33% of snaps for the offense this year for the Saints. 127 snaps he's been out there. So joke's on me. Bub means only 69. So, double the experience for Mason Tipton. All right. Let's move to Patriots, Jags. It's been very quiet out of the Jags since their embarrassing loss to the Bears. We are kind of all assuming that it is sort of a fait accompli that Doug Peterson's going to get fired when they get home or left on the tarmac, which is, again, one of my favorite happenings. The Lane Kiffin Memorial firing on the tarmac at Heathrow. I have no idea if there's a Jags effort for this game. There was some hilarious quotes from my favorite Patriot, Demario Douglas. Demario Douglas, I think, is the best Patriots offensive player. I don't think it's close. Drake May will hopefully be that guy one day, but right now it's Demario Douglas. And they were asking him about playing the Jaguars in London, and he's like, "Oh, I get to play in my hometown, Jacksonville." Not kind of synthesizing that they were going to London, which was a good laugh. But the Jags have had time to kind of acclimate. If you're going to get an AA effort out of them at all this season, it's going to be this game. The problem is the Patriots are at least more frisky with this current quarterback than they were with Jacoby Brissett behind this offensive line, which is not serviceable. My sense reading the market is there's appetite to bet the Jags again, and it very well may be that people who bet the shit out of the Jags last week and were super fucking wrong going back for a second bite at the apple here, but Godspeed to them. My fare on this game is 3.5. I have not played the Patriots because I do not have a strong sense that they're any good, on top of the fact that the Jags defense might have sort of a death rattle effort in them. Who knows?
I didn't know how to properly downgrade the Jags for the quit, I guess, because I'm still kind of in a weird spot with them. This line stinks, though. I don't quite understand where it's at. 5.5. I mean, it's a cheap 6.
It's huge. That's huge. Honestly, you can't get there unless you give the Jags like a big travel and home field boost. You know, that's what you got. That's the only way you can get there.
I've decided on this. I think this is what I did last year. I went back and looked. I'm giving them 1 point of home field advantage.
All right.
So I'm adjusting a full point for staying here, not having to travel. Familiarity.
It's not that different than home field normally. In Duval.
Yeah, this is a different field. I mean, it's not Tottenham. They're playing on a different field on a new surface, by the way, that they're just going to try out. So that can be fun. I'm having flashbacks to having any money on the Brazil game at this point. It's like, oh no, everyone's falling down. So I make this just short of 4, which means bet the Patriots, but I don't think have an appetite for that. If this keeps going, I mean, 6.5. I'd have to begrudgingly take the Patriots at that point, just based on line. But Drake May had an MRI today.
Did he?
So this is weird. So this is what I have in my notes. Full participant in practice, MRI after practice.
For what?
His knee.
What?
This just screams JJ McCarthy. Because it was like, oh, J.J. McCarthy's probably fine. Like, he's fine. He's running around out there. Let's do an MRI. Oh, J.J. McCarthy's inside of his knee is a junkyard. We need to shut him down. Like, I kind of want
J.J. McCarthy, that was a meniscus that needed surgery, right?
Yeah, that was the bad one. That's
the bad classic.
Not just the snipping,
but we're going to sew it together. We're going to stitch it. Oh, my God. I know. I missed that entirely. Okay. Well, now I have triple disincentive to pay attention or bet this game.
Yeah, pumping the brakes in this one. I'd lean Patriots, and I feel horrible about it.
A lot of support for an over here, right? That's only over bettable if it's May. I don't think you can realistically.
The look ahead was 40. It opened around here. It opened higher, and it's kind of been holding in that 42.5, 43 range. Right. Don't love that. I should look at what I make the total. I'm pretty fine on this total. I make it 42.5.
Okay, well, Let's move to the afternoon or the 1 o'clock games, I guess. 10 o'clock
Yeah,
my time.
normal time.
Dolphins are coming off a bye. They are taking on a Colts team that is starting who? Oh wait, no, I'm going out of order. My bad. I don't understand why sometimes, but I use the unabated odds screen now, and for some reason they're not sorted in rotation order the way that my sheet is. So I
You
get
know what?
confused. Why?
You know
Why
where
is that?
You know where I go for rotation order?
Where?
Classic Bet Online. Or
Classic.
So I'll pull up Lovig because it's just
Yeah.
the old classic version, and they put them in rotation order. The only people you have to worry about is like when a game's off the board and you skip it. Like, oh, I'm short a game. I'm short a game, but yeah, it should
So
be.
sorry,
Seattle,
my
Atlanta.
bad. Seattle, Atlanta. What are your? You want to set the table here?
Seattle is rested, right?
Extra rest.
They're just they're raring to go. So Seattle is off Thursday night football, but it is a cross country trip. So it's kind of a long travel spot. I
Big
guess
travel disadvantage for them, yeah.
Kind of affects them a little less. This is another total that got bet up. Maybe not so much off the open, but the look ahead last week was 47.5. I think a lot of how you feel about Atlanta depends on how much value you put in last week. I put some value in last week. Like good offenses go throw down against bad teams and put it on.
I was expecting more throwdown.
I know, but at a certain point, it's like, do they want to, are they mad at Carolina?
Well, there were three quarters where it was just like, this should be over, and it wasn't.
Yeah. I don't think the defense is very good. I think that's going to be a part of this. So I guess the biggest part was I wanted to see the offense look good again. They didn't have to be 500 yards good, but it had to be like, this is a shitty team. If you stumble and trip over your dick against Carolina, like this offense,
eject.
Maybe I'm a little out on it, but no, for now I'm fine keeping this offense high. I'm fine keeping this defense low. I'm kind of on price here. I make this 2.71. This is a big Atlanta offensive advantage, though. Like if I were going to look at anything here, it would have been Atlanta team total over, but with this total up in the 50s, it's probably a little high for me. Although, man, I started to do some different stuff with team totals last week, and there was a bunch I circled didn't play, and of course those did well. So I'll play them all this week, and it'll be the regression week. But I'm kind of on number here, and this really comes down to if you believe the Seattle defense can get right. It looked pretty bad at times the last 2 weeks, but those were against top offenses. Byron Murphy's expected to practice. Reek Woolen is not sounding like he's going to go.
No, he matters.
And then for Atlanta, they're not getting Troy Anderson back this week, maybe not next week. Abernathy's not back. Judon was limited. Landman was limited. So their defense isn't good either. And I guess I see why this total's nice and high. This is probably not going to see money to the under. I don't know what would possess you to bet an under 51 in the spot where just two defenses have been getting gashed. And, I know it was Carolina, but a better team last week, I don't know what they would have done.
I mean, if you can convince yourself there might be some red zone stubbing your toe, then yeah. But I don't know. I mean, there's going to be a lot of offense. There's going to be a lot of success here, I would expect. My fair, though, is 50.1. So if I was to bet a total in this game, I would be the under. But Seattle playing early, Seattle with the big old travel spot, Seattle trying to integrate some pieces back defensively. Maybe we just don't see it yet.
Maybe if the Atlanta team total is like a cheap 27, I might play it.
Here's the thing about Atlanta that kind of, and this is kind of my current prism by which I'm evaluating offenses in the NFL, is if you are able to establish a rush against light boxes, then that changes the math for you offensively to where you can, the defense has to put more guys, commit more guys to the run. And then that allows you to then do some of the fun, tricky route combinations, put guys in space, open up opportunities for Yak, like all of that sort of the passing offense of a McVay or a Shanahan style system, which Atlanta runs, all of a sudden is open for business.
Yeah.
right? If you cannot get a run established with light, against light boxes, then you're in trouble, and the advantage is in the hands of the defense, where they can now do some misdirection and some Mike McDonald tricks to really kind of confuse the quarterback pre-snap, get him to hold the ball for a snap second longer, get him to make the wrong read, a throwaway, a sack, a chaos play, right? And I looked at what happened with Seattle's defense just completely falling apart, and I kind of point clearly to the fact that like they had no bodies, no way to win in the trenches defensively, and teams were able to run on them at will. Like this was no more apparent than the Lions game, and you saw it again in the Niners game. And as soon as if you have good offensive weapons and you can get a run going against Seattle where they have to commit linebackers to stopping the run, then game over. Like you're scoring whatever you want to score. And my sense is that with who's available for the Seattle Seahawks in this game, that's still a problem, and that Atlanta is going to be able to dictate terms. And I don't see a matchup for Drake London in the absence of Tyreek Woolen. I think the other cover corners for Seattle have warts, most notably like with Witherspoon. I'm not sure what's going on, but he's kind of turning into Jamal Adams, which is weird because they had Jamal Adams and now they're getting another Jamal Adams. But like his coverage is not very good. He's only really able to kind of do good tackling and rush the passer type of stuff. So I'm pretty concerned about Seattle here, and I kind of think this is a bigger game for them than it's being made out to be, because they have their backs against the wall here. Freaking, I don't think they want. We know they don't want to.
It's crazy. They were leading the division last week.
Yeah, I know, and now they might be it might be over. So yeah, I think Atlanta gets their number here. I'm projecting them to score 27 points. My fair would be 3.6. And I don't have a ton of action across the board this week. I'm thinking of laying Falcons cheap 3. What do you think?
Yeah, like I said, I like the team total there. If I had to lean on the number, I'm close. But like you talked about the run game, I was convinced of this to start the season that McDonald didn't have the pieces he needed to put together the defense he wanted. It's gotten worse because of injuries and obviously some inefficiencies in the players he does have. And Atlanta has been successful running the ball. They're top 10 in success rate on the ground. Like it's not always pretty. It's not always Bajan, but they're able to run the ball at a decent clip. So
okay,
I think if that opens up, Atlanta's going to score. It'd be Atlanta centric for me. Even even with the extra rest, I don't love the going on the road with this defense right now.
Yeah. By the way, Mike Montesano, I got it. But I always forget to do that on the first time I open it. And the other thing, the only other thing, it logs
the order
you,
of the games changes.
It logs you out like every single time. My God, man. I mean, do we need this many logins?
Every website ever is like that now. Everything's gotten way worse.
Brutal. Oh, it's brutal. And I know it's not a big deal to just click login. It's all saved, like blah, blah, blah. But my goodness gracious, like, do we really, really need to log people out every 5 minutes? Anyway, I digress. These are first world problems, certainly. Titans Bills, or you got any last thoughts on Seahawks Falcones?
No.
Okay. Titans are 9-point dogs. Whew, that's a big old number. We don't have clarity here, I don't think, on Levis, right? We don't have quarterback clarity for the Titans. It's probably Levis, and he's probably on his last number on his leash. Okay. Let's pretend Levis is going. Let's pretend the Buffalo Bills are going to have Cooper available.
That was up in the air, and that was surprising, and it felt like gamesmanship, because I think they just said coming in this late in the week, it was like, we got to get him up to speed and all that. He's an outside receiver. He's not having to learn complex blocking schemes for it's going to suck if he misses a block on some run plays, but you need an outside receiver so badly. Fucking put him out there and let your X rip a little, huh?
Okay. Short week for Buffalo, but Buffalo has a smidgen of a travel advantage. Tennessee seems lost. in terms of just concept. Like, what are they trying to do? The Levis show going from hilariously bad mistakes to just bad period was a surprise last week. And I don't know if there's any salvaging that. There was a whiff of quit in the Calvin Ridleys of the world who are like, what am I doing here? If you're just going to skip balls at my feet, like, yeah, like what's going on here? The offensive line does not look fixed for Houston. And yeah, I mean, this is a game back in the day that Buffalo would just press go and never stop. But they're a little bit new identity now where they want to try to run heavy personnel and let their offensive line do the dirty work and hide the defense a little bit, which I think is smart. And so for those reasons, I'm not really in love with laying this big of a price with Buffalo, but I'll be goddamned if I put a dime on Will Levis the rest of the season. Where are you at?
Yeah, I'm close to 10 on this. I agree with the movement here to the under. Although I worry with some of the injuries for the Tennessee defense, I think that's worth keeping an eye on. L'Jarius Sneed didn't practice today.
He's
on
been
paper,
bad though. Like,
yeah, and I think he's been hurt because what made him good last year was just they put him and Duffy up on the line. They just jam people. It was so much press coverage, and like guys weren't getting off, and then you were able to let the pass rush get there because guys weren't able to go develop their routes properly with the aggressive nature of that Chiefs defense. But it's a bad matchup for both offenses. This look ahead was 43. It opened 42. It's down to 41. That checks out with me. I could be tempted by this under. I'd make it under 40, but some of that depends on the health of the Tennessee defense. So I'm going to keep an eye on that, look to an under. I think this is a just kind of bad Tennessee versus Buffalo, who is going to be able to, even if Cook is out. And I think that's kind of up in the air at this point.
Well, Buffalo's got Roy Davis to lean on now.
He does have Roy Davis.
Let Cook get right for the postseason, man.
Cook
will lean on Roy Davis.
Cook was limited today, but I mean, even if he is out, obviously you've seen it. They're going to run the ball. So, yeah, not a game I'm excited about outside of an under.
Tell me about your defensive ratings currently on Tennessee and Buffalo.
All right.
Buffalo is top 10, top 12.
Buffalo Bills. Where are you, Buffalo? I have them blue. I have Buffalo as my 13th ranked 13th. Defense.
Okay. And Tennessee is your
8th when fully healthy.
Oh, boy. Okay. So I'm not at 8 for Tennessee. I'm down to 16 for them.
I didn't make any adjustments down for them because all of the defensive injuries are up in the air.
Okay. Teron Johnson back for the Bills made a big difference on Monday. Buffalo was goodish in coverage, baddish at tackling. Buffalo has the problem of linebacker play has been real sus so far this year. And Buffalo has had the problem of when they go down 2 scores, they are kind of backs against the wall offensively. I don't think either of those things is really a problem in this game against Tennessee. So bombs away Buffalo for survivor, I suppose. But yeah, I don't have my numbers would say bet the over, bet Tennessee, and the way Will Levis is playing right now, I can't endorse either of those positions.
And some of my Tennessee numbers are based off just like they've played bad offenses the last couple of weeks. And they were off the 1 week, but 3 weeks ago it was Miami versus backups. When they went to Miami, that was not a starting caliber NFL quarterback. Last week they had the extra rest and they faced Flacco having to come in with a banged up offense. And I mean, the biggest takeaway for everybody is like, Jesus Christ, Will Levis. You can't put up numbers against this defense. I think maybe a different takeaway could have been they were able to limit Flacco. It looked pretty damn good the week before. And it'll be interesting when we get to the Colts game. That'll be an interesting point. But yeah, under or nothing for me here.
It is probably going to be a few more games before Buffalo's D-line is at full strength, to Xavier's question. But I also don't think that really matters. Like the backups should have themselves a day because Tennessee cannot pass block to save their lives. They're absolutely terrible. All right.
Yeah, and I think game state too would just if it gets to be like 17-0, you're sitting in the third quarter, it could really that clock could speed up in a hurry the way the Buffalo can and will run the ball, and then you crank up the Buffalo pass rush again, and
Yeah,
Such is
exactly.
life.
It's over. Let's talk about Cincinnati at Cleveland. I did not think anyone on earth was lower on Cleveland than I was in terms of a power rating. I thought I was kind of out there in the field standing alone, not believing in these guys. I can't get to 5.5, 6, man. Like, this is a big fucking number. And Cincinnati was a meaningful favorite last week and needed some gifts to get that home against the Giants. The Browns are still playing at least hard defense for some portion of the game, right? Even if it's not good for 4 quarters, they're at least playing hard for the opening salvos of the games. I cannot get involved with Cleveland, particularly in the absence of Cooper here. I have no clue what Watson does here now in terms of target share. No clue if he is engaged at all in trying to salvage the season. This was the first easiest one for me to walk away from. Where are you?
Yeah, make this a 5. It's fine. Like, this is a bad defense, but I don't know how Cleveland takes advantage of it. It's kind of like neither offense or defense has a huge advantage in this spot. It's probably a fine number. I think the look at was 40. Yeah, it was 45.5.
Where's Cleveland's defense for you?
Let's look. Difficult to rate because the effort level is
variable.
I have it 9th, but you can sometimes they go out there and they look like a middle of the pack defense. Then there's plays where they look like what we thought at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
Is, hey, this
Denzel,
is a top 5 defense.
Did you get a Denzel Ward note one way or the other?
Don't know yet. Looking at
this is the kind of game that matters a lot.
Yeah,
because you got such elite wide receivers on the other side.
So Ronnie Hickman,
last week it was too, but it didn't.
Ronnie Hickman, the safety, didn't practice. They might get their running backs back, which clues of Nick Chubb actually matters. But they're still like Pochich wasn't healthy. They're still going to be down, to whatever third string center. Or I should check if what Harris's status is. They've cycled through so many people on the offensive line. I make this 5. I don't see a big advantage for anybody. I think the number's probably close to about right. This is one where it was a gross thought in my head today. Sometimes I think about the NFL slate. Well, sometimes I think about this NFL slate. It's like, what's the one? There's always like a game or two that's like, what the fuck happened there? And it's going to be like this feels like the one where it's most likely where it's like, oh man, could we get any lower on Cleveland? They're playing dead. They got nothing.
We found the bottom on Cleveland, yeah.
And then it's just like, Jerry Jeudy, 8 catches for 183 and 2 touchdowns. It's just like this, the shifting around of the responsibilities of the wide receivers. Sometimes you end up with something you didn't know you had, which I don't know. It's not like Jerry Jeudy's new to the league. I think they're going to have to rely on whatever running backs to get back, and Njoku a lot this week.
Yeah.
I'm staying away from this game.
To Patrick's point, it feels like the Bengals have been the what the fuck game every week, Andy.
Patriots,
what the fuck happened?
They've had them for
lose
years.
to week 3? Who did they lose to week 3? I'm blanking. They wiped out 50% of Survivor players this year between week 1 and week 3.
The Washington game.
Spacing.
Before we knew Washington was really good. Was
that week 3?
They gave up 38 to Washington.
Yeah. That was bad.
I do think Zadarius Smith should be on the block.
Oh man, if they're not listening to offers, they're not doing their job. But there's a lot of things you can point to that the front office in Cleveland has been doing and say they're not doing their job. Houston, Green Bay, finally. Whew. You sink our teeth into this one a little bit. All these other games up to this point have been woofs. And I guess that's what happens when you have really, really good matchups. That means you have a lot of really, really bad ones. Okay.
One quick point too on Cincinnati. So it is a back-to-back for travel, but it was to New York and Cleveland.
I have virtually no travel advantage for Cleveland here.
Not a real big nasty travel spot.
No, and Cleveland went to Philly to Cleveland, so no, nothing. Minimal. Houston at Green Bay is a fun one, man. This is kind of the matchup of the two young quarterbacks from the preseason who were MVP hype cases. Two offenses with just a bunch of weapons, two defenses. We weren't sure if they were going to take a step forward, in the case of the Green Bay Packers, the new coordinator and some new personnel. This is if you squint hard enough, potentially a Super Bowl preview. We have no historical reference of Packers Texans. I don't know that. I'm assuming these two teams have played these franchises have played a couple of times, but I can't think of a single example. I'm sure the last one involved Deshaun Watson, right? But whatever the case is, Houston takes on the Packers in Lambeau in a game that really means a lot for both of these teams because Houston cannot, I guess it means more for Green Bay, right? Green Bay can't afford to drop a home game in a really, really tight divisional race. Houston, if they're going to lose games, they lost to Minnesota, losing to Green Bay on the road. These are not as consequential in terms of tiebreak. So I guess in terms of motivation, it means a little more for Green Bay. In terms of health and personnel, the strength of the Green Bay offense right now is their offensive line, which is hugely important because they got to neutralize a gnarly pass rush that Houston is bringing to town. Houston has elite coverage in the form of Stingley, who can presumably match up fairly well against wide receiver one. There is no wide receiver one in Green Bay. I think this is the type of team with these weapons that could really hurt the Houston defense. And I have a little bit of, somewhat muted optimism that Green Bay is going to be able to score into the high 20s here. And I have no qualms about expecting Houston to score into the high 20s here. So this looks like bombs away over. This looks like bombs away over.
So not only that, but we saw a Green Bay pass rush get one quarterback hit and 0 sacks last week against a team with comparable to worse offensive line. A concern with Houston.
Worse.
I don't know. I've done great.
Will Hernandez was out of the game. He wasn't. The best player on that unit wasn't playing.
I don't know how highly you rate the Houston offensive line.
I'll tell you.
People they've rolled out.
Anyway, go ahead.
It's worse. I mean, it is worse. You're right. But they didn't get a pass rush last week. I don't think they're getting a pass rush this week. Their secondary has been better than I thought, but even without Nico, if you're not going to get pressure on CJ Stroud, he's a great processor anyway. If you give them a bunch of extra time back there, he's going to be fine finding whomever, even if it's short stuff where they dink and dunk. And like you said, I think Green Bay's offense they could have looked even better last week.
Yeah.
And we've got Azeez Al-Shaair, DNP, Jimmy Ward, DNP.
That's bad.
Kamari Lassiter's out. He's just out. He's
that's
done.
bad.
Mario Edwards is suspended 4 games. They do get Danico Autry back, who I love. They're like, we're just going to plug and play. Well, you have to because you're missing.
You have to. Yeah.
You need another defensive end at this point. So I love their pass rush. But it's like, hey, it's a shitty pass rush against a shitty offensive line, a good pass rush against a good offensive line. I think we should see both quarterbacks with plenty of time. And 47.5, it's a buy to the over. I've been high on Green Bay's offense. I played him last week. I'll play him again this week. And I think we're in agreement here. This is
9 mile an hour wind, beautiful sunny day, 67 degrees. Oh, baby.
A little bit of weird travel. This is a true back-to-back where they had to go all the way up to, Massachusetts and then home and then up to Green Bay,
but nobody played last week. They only played half a game.
Yeah. It's fair.
When Davis Mills got the call like halfway through the third quarter.
It is. It's like the opposite. It is like the opposite of playing an overtime game. It's a little bit of travel, but I think they'll be fine. Over for me.
Okay. We agree on that one. Are there any specific matchups you're excited to see here? CJ Stroud versus Xavier McKinney. I think the weapons here for Houston should have themselves pretty nice matchups.
I think if either defense ends up playing well, I would lean towards the Green Bay defense playing better because, like you said,
they're healthier-ish.
And like nobody has really stuck out strongly. Like even Alexander's been banged up and he's missed some time. but between like Stokes and Nixon, I thought they'd be worse. They haven't been, and I think maybe the presence of a good safety has helped them. They've got decent linebacker play. It's really just been, why aren't you getting any pressure, Rashawn Gary? Why
Yeah.
aren't you getting home?
Well, he's
Kenny
getting two hats
Clarkson
on him
right now.
constantly because there's no one else is doing anything.
Yeah, so
So let me ask you.
Smith?
At a buy point of 3 here on the side, do you have any inclination to take the dog, or do you think this is Green Bay's? It sounds like you're more confident in Green Bay's defense potentially being able to get a key stop late, maybe, or something like that, right?
I'll make it 3.19 right now.
Oh wow, really?
I'm pretty much there. I'm pretty much on market for that.
I am at 1.8, so I'm under 3. Unfortunately, to play Houston at 3 means you got to lay minus 123 right now, so that's a fat no.
Yeah, it's more like a 2.5.
This is basically a 2.5. Yeah. Okay, never mind.
And some of the injuries, like
Skipperoonie.
If we end up with backup running backs again, if Mixon doesn't end up going, if we some of these other guys that didn't practice, if Tunsil, I think Tunsil's limited just because he's Laramie Tunsil. I think he'll play, but
sure. Agreed.
Kind of going to track injuries in this one as well.
Okay. From the good to the blah. Miami at Indianapolis. If
it closes 2.5, it's not my favorite teaser leg.
You're gonna put Houston in there.
Okay. Maybe it's not my favorite.
I like it.
All right. Next game.
Miami is at Indy. Miami is coming off the bye. Miami has a slight travel disadvantage though because Indy's been home for a little while. There are varying theses out there about who best serves the Colts right now in terms of winning football games, both in the short term and the long term. Franchise mode Colts is easy. You need to develop Richardson if he's ready to go plus press play. But I think if you are trying to maximize the window of talent on your roster now and get into playoff position, it's doable in a weak wildcard field in the AFC right now. And Flacco might be able to do that for you. So I'm not sure what the right decision is here. I'm assuming Steichen is, he's comfortable enough in his position and everybody there doesn't really fear job security. And so they're fine putting Richardson back in if he's ready to go and continuing to develop him at the expense of maybe finishing 8-9 this year, which is kind of where I would expect they end up if they play out the season with Richardson. The defense still stinks. So
stinks out loud.
Right. So giving up. So basically like kind of going hard into we're going to make a push doesn't really make sense to me. I don't know. What are your thoughts on the Colts right now? Because I'm pretty lost. I'm glad that they're part of the story because I like Steichen. I think they're fun to watch. I can't believe Flacco's winning football games again.
I love this
for another team.
The two quarterback system like you see in college. Just Flacco trotting out there on 3rd and 10 for the passing downs.
Yeah,
my God, that probably wouldn't work in the NFL.
Oh, dude, have Flacco take the snaps and have Richardson in the backfield.
Yeah, we're getting 2 quarterback sets. Don't know what to do with this game. Indianapolis's defense is horrid. I don't know that they're putting the better, to win one game, you're not putting the better quarterback out there. We saw what Flacco did against the Jags. I don't know. He's a better quarterback against a bad defense. I mean, I would rather see Richardson because I'm always looking long term. And it sounds like it's going to be Richardson, but Christ, you see the injury report today? Josh Downs, Michael Pittman, both receivers didn't practice. Ryan Kelly, who got a new injury last week, their center. See the theme there with the centers. He didn't practice. Cornerback Chris Lamons didn't practice. Right tackle Braden Nee didn't practice. Trey Sermon and Jonathan Taylor, both your running backs, did not practice. They even had a couple defensive players as well to add onto the list of defensive players that are already missing. And, Miami off the bye. Got to catch up a little bit on their injuries. Emmanuel Ogbah sounds like he might miss. He's day-to-day with an injury. Achane is trending in off the concussion stuff. I don't know to do with this game. I wasn't super sure where to put my number based on the quarterback change. I'm high on Indy. I just kind of left things with my Flacco numbers. I think I got to lower that a little because right now I'm making this close to like Indy -2, which what do we have currently for a number? This isn't a game I've tracked very carefully. So Indy
is the juicy 3 right now, basically 3.5.
I make
and the total is
43.5. There's not a game I want to bet less, I think.
I make this 3.3. I make the total 45. I did not even consider betting this game because I really am completely lost on how to price Miami right now. It sounds like we may get Tua back sometime in the near future, which makes Miami a little bit more fun to handicap. But right now with Hundley and the offensive line and the state it's in, even against a really bad Indy defense, I don't know that I feel confident that they're getting to 20 points here. And even
I almost looked at this under. I just can't do it with these defenses.
No. With these and the pace of play of Indianapolis is a over or pass for every game. So all right. Well, this is a skipperoonie then. Detroit at Minnesota. Minnesota off the bye. Yep. Detroit off of the performance of the season for them. This spot screams letdown game for Detroit. Screams.
Well, not only that, but it's not just Minnesota.
Revenge. Let's go through the 4 factors that matter for this game, Andy, the most. We got
turnovers, offensive rebounding.
No, you can't. I mean, it's funny because the factors kind of go against each other this time. Minnesota's got extra rest, but this is their year in Detroit, So I'm a little confused as to which side I'm supposed to pick here.
Detroit this is the second straight week of travel for Detroit. This is not a long, this is hour and a half flight over to Minnesota, but another indoor game. But it's still, I mean, the travel and the not being in the routine of playing at home, being at home does add up. These back-to-backs matter. Yeah. And it is Minnesota off rest, and it is Detroit off of what were they?
99th percentile performance.
47-9 win. Yeah, I hate the letdown spot thing because it's hard to prove that out, but man, this is
presumably the letdown spot is that the market has over-adjusted or overbet. That's the component that you want to seize on if you're saying letdown more than you're I predict these men are going to come out of the tunnel and not care about winning. Come on. That's absurd.
Not with that coach.
Not with that coach. I guess here's kind of here are the actual handicapping factors in my mind for this game. Can the Minnesota defense stop the Detroit offense? I'm going to guess no. And I'm going to say that for 2 reasons. And you push back because I know you bet some Minnesota early and you probably feel like Minnesota is the right side here. And I'm on the other side of you. Minnesota and
say Todd Bowles?
I was going to say Todd Bowles.
Brian Flores.
Very similar schematic elements where they like to be aggressive.
Similar
aggressiveness with the blitz. Similar aggressiveness. They have struggled to utilize what works against other quarterbacks, against Jared Goff, Stafford, McVay coached quarterbacks of years past when they are well protected. And the reason is if you are not getting quick pressure on Goff and he is allowed to kind of lock on to what he has been given as 1-2 option, then he knifes you. He's precise. He is a surgeon back there, assuming that it's not a cold, wet, windy day with his tiny hands. So I think that this looks like a little bit of a wake-up test for the Minnesota defense, which has been amazing this year so far, but not had to go up against a unit that's anywhere close to this good and this complete. And I know that there is some
the Niners, the Texans, and the Packers. With Nico in.
I rate Detroit's offense right now better than all those.
I moved him up, but I had trouble moving him up too hard off one game against Dallas.
Okay. So the other thing is like the offensive line that Detroit is bringing into this game is better
That's very good.
than all of those other units. And I think that's what's the most important part here, which is
that's a big
getting pressure with your front four. I don't think is happening. If you want to create pressure on Jared Goff, you're going to have to do it in exotic ways with blitz packages. And I don't think that will work. And I don't see the coverage being good enough to put a lid on all of the options that are now fully operational for the Detroit Lions in the passing game. And the running game for the Lions, to me, looks virtually unstoppable as currently constituted. Like they're getting so much push, and it is so obscene how they are able to run the ball down teams' throats. And I don't think that is necessarily opponent specific.
Well,
you can make a
last
case
week
that
it
it is. Last week, you can make a case the last 2 weeks it was, but it's still a very, very good ability for them to flip the switch and get it going in the run game when they feel like it. And that balanced attack is really what is making such a sweet symphony for Detroit offensively. The other side of the coin, Detroit has no Aiden Hutchinson, and they presumably will have no pass rush. Like, I don't think Detroit's defense is generating much pressure here. So if you get a clean Sam Darnold game, then this is again, another bombs away over and shootout potential team with the ball last wins kind of a exercise. If Darnold is making mistakes though, then I feel like this is clearly Lions get it probably by some small margin. And I guess this is where I'm coming from for this handicap.
Yeah. And
not seeing Darnold last week makes me feel like I don't feel like he's good again. And maybe it's the opposite of recency bias. I'm separated enough from seeing him play well that I think he's pumpkining out now.
That's a weird question to answer about the London game. Is like he was a little inaccurate. Was it the big hits he took early on because he got banged up in the ribs, and he didn't look like that in the other games. He looked worse. The Jets defense, I'd say a much better cornerback duo than anything you're going to see against Detroit. Obviously, Brian Branch is very good, but he is very injured as well right now, too. We'll see exactly what his status is coming to the game. They lost another big body up front, and was it Teco? It's like a backup offensive line or backup defender who comes in on heavy sets.
Yep.
He ended up, I think he's IR as well right now. Kyle Pecco and Aiden Hutchinson out. My pushback on the blitz rate stuff is like blitz rate feels like an antiquated stat at this point because of how teams are doing it. It isn't just we run a 4-3 defense and a linebacker is running through and that's a blitz. Because of the way some of these, the Mike McDonald's last year, how we've seen Flores evolve even in his time in Minnesota.
Sure.
Minnesota runs the most cover 0, the most cover 4, and the most cover 2 because they're running all this stuff just randomly amorphous, like moving around to this. And I think that's the big knock against Jared Goff is what if the defense looks a certain way and then the headset goes off and the defense looks a different way? I can see it feels like it's either going to be one way or the other. Like either Goff isn't pressured and he's fine, or he isn't getting the help he needs with checks at the line because the headset's off and Flores moves his defense pre-snap, and suddenly everything he saw and everything he thinks and everything he's talking to with Ben Johnson is incorrect. Suddenly this cover 2 is a cover 4. Suddenly this man is a zone. Suddenly everything moves around. That's where they've been bringing pressure. It hasn't just been, blitzes like you describe a normal blitz package. It has been a lot of goofy people coming from different angles. At the same time, it's still the best offensive line in the fucking league. So it's still going to be just hard. Like you're really going to have to have a masterclass from Flores to get pressures, which I guess he's had 2 weeks for it. Like I like this one and look ahead. If you made me get after this one right now, I'm not so sure I'd be running to the window in Minnesota. Okay. I make this number pretty much nuts on. And I think, the biggest thing you're going to have to watch is Hawkinson probably matters a lot to this offense. He could be huge. He was limited, but it sounds like he has a decent chance to play. Aaron Jones sounds like he has a decent chance to play. Linebacker Blake Cashman has turf toe, which is concerning because you don't want to lose important pieces off a bye week, which sucks. But Brian Branch was limited today, and Carlton Davis did not practice for this Detroit secondary. And
Those
I think
guys
maybe
matter.
instead of butting heads on this, we're like, why is this total not 55?
I'm not sure either. I love your point about Goff and the headset snapping off.
Well, I remember
But
you brought it
I
up
think,
earlier in the season as a
think
point
that go-
against him.
but I think that goes. I think it goes both ways, right? What was the point you made last week where you were spot on about? It was the Chargers. I was like, well, great. Surtain, he's not going to lock anybody down because you don't have anybody locked down. But maybe that's actually a good thing, right? Well, Jared Goff wasn't reading your defense, whether or not you were disguising it. So if he's like,
I don't think he's like an idiot. I mean, he's still going out there and reading.
Is he?
Yeah, I mean, he's an NFL quarterback. I think we should give him a little more credit than that.
Okay.
He still sees what kind of coverage you're in. High
is
school.
Is he making the decisions based on that though, or are they literally just cooking up beautiful stuff for him to just paint by numbers? Yeah,
he still is obviously making decisions, Drew. He has a first read.
Sure.
And when he sees, hey, this is the kind of play we run, and in this instant, my first read is going this way, and this should work against cover 2. Mm-hmm. This should work against this man we're up against right now. And if it does change, and he suddenly, my first read is dead, he still does have to make decisions about his reads, and changing the defense, post snap has turned into a pain in the ass for some people.
I'm ready to cash out of my Lions bet. You've completely talked me down.
I'm ready to cash out of my Vikings bet. What do you think of this total? All joking aside.
I don't have a huge edge on the side at the end of the day. My fare here is 2.8. So my numbers would say the bet I made was bad. I don't know why when I made the bet, honestly.
It's like you talk with the recency bias. Last week it was 1,000% Detroit hype, and then Minnesota didn't even play. We didn't.
I made a money line bet of plus 122, and I can cash out for positive equity right now. Maybe I will. I've never hit the cash out button in my life.
What do you make this total?
49.9.
I like that offshore operators are more starting to incorporate some of that stuff. I like that they're being proactive.
I didn't even know it was a thing.
Never thought, years ago, I never thought you'd see a cash out button on Bookmaker.
Yeah. So my fair total would say bet under here, but again, I don't know. This feels like score and answer type of deal. And again, the injuries to the Lions defense might make this pretty. I guess here's the thing: if the Lions are in a game state where they are chasing, that takes away a huge element of them being able to dictate to the defense, right? The Lions win when they can force your defense to put extra men in the box. And that probably goes away if you're down for 10 points in this game.
Yeah.
So I guess where I'm at is I do see there being a pretty meaningful game state where the Vikings are ahead. Vikings have played it from ahead. What, every game this year?
Almost
every game.
It's been
have they had a deficit at all?
I think the Giants were up 3-0 on them for 3 minutes.
Giants were up on them. That's amazing.
Maybe that was the one. They were losing to somebody. Aaron Jones, I don't know what the hip. It sounded like the hip flared up before the Jets game. He's but he was moving pretty good in practice according to the reports. We'll see. He obviously matters a lot. If the Vikings get a full health Hawkinson and Jones back, this total should tick to 50, I would think. What was I going to say real quick? And then just you talk about scoring into Minnesota is top 5 in red zone, I think, for the year. They're 72% over the last 3. Detroit has been 83% over their last 3 games, despite being a little lower. So the red zone stuff's clicking for both teams too. I'm just saying I couldn't bet an under here.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm probably cashing out and just going to enjoy this game as a fan. God damn it. This game has so much leverage. Minnesota effectively clinches division with a win, right?
Well, and know what's crazy? To go 5-0.
I know it does. I know they don't.
If you go 5-0 and you lose this game, you're in second place.
I know, it's amazing. But if you go 6-0 winning this game, you have beaten Detroit and Green Bay. You have a clear edge on your division and the 1 seed. This feels like 1 seed in the balance, really, in this game.
Yeah, he didn't do any official practicing. I think he was
talking about
some people
Jones?
on the side.
Aaron Jones?
Yes, asking. The plan was always Thursday and Friday practice, see how you feel. So we'll know a lot more tomorrow, I think, after practice, Central Time, so middle of the day. Yeah, this could be for the 1 seed. This is a great game.
Yeah.
All right,
man. Philly's playing the Giants. All the Giants are hurt. I bet the Giants, and I fucking hate it. Fuck the Giants. Fuck Philly. I don't have anything else to say.
Getting 3 points there. Oh man. Well, just give me your thoughts of Phillies last week. Like how you felt coming out of that game. They got Lane Johnson, they got both wide receivers back, and that's how the offense looked. How?
Yeah. How did they only score 20 points? How did you have 6 yards per play? How did you have no turnovers? How did you have a tiny penalty margin? And how did you convert? How did you convert two of 2 fourth downs and only put up 20 points? Like that was pathetic. And Sirianni, the vibes around him are so bad and so black cloud. I don't want anything really to do with Philadelphia right now in any way. But
I show slight value.
I don't.
In Philly.
Everybody who like spent the summer talking about how Kellen Moore's offense was going to go hand in glove with Jalen Hurts.
I think the next
Moore
stop
have an offense? Does he have an offense?
The next stop, I think,
the next stop. Yeah, this is like deja vu all over again with this guy. Like, I think he just does whatever the people around him are saying to do because that's what it feels like. And there's no wrinkles, there's no innovation. And if Jalen Hurts is under distress here because Jordan Mailata is not going to be protecting his blind side, then he's in deep trouble and the Giants are alive. But the Giants injury report and situation right now feels like they're throwing up the white flag on the season, which does not feel good to be having backed the Giants in this contest. I don't ultimately know if there's any truth to that, but Dexter Lawrence matters phenomenally, hugely to this game, and he was in DNP. Brian Burns matters a ton. He was a DNP. And the Giants, I assumed were going to get positive news from Malik Neighbors, which was going to move this number, which is why I bet it when I bet it. But I'm still waiting. What have you heard?
Who's your favorite Eagles offensive coordinator?
Of all time?
To answer your question. You want to hear a list of some fucking names here? Ted Marchibroda, old people. Tom Fears.
Wow.
Rich Kotite. So John Gruden, 95 through 97. Fun fact.
Gruden is up there for me for sure.
Brad Childress, Marty Morningweg, Pat Childress is not
up there. Brad Childress is not up there.
It's Steichen. I think it's Steichen.
Steichen. Yes.
But there's a lot of head coaches in here. I just did this because I couldn't remember the name of the OC last year, Brian Johnson.
Johnson.
I mean, the offense doesn't feel that much different. It doesn't feel that much different from last year.
Chip Kelly. Was Chip Kelly the offensive coordinator at one point?
See, so when Andy Reid was there, I think he did a lot of the play calling.
Pat Shurmur was the offensive coordinator in Chip Kelly. Did you know that?
Yeah.
You did?
Because I just looked at a history of the
you just looked at the list. Did you
I
say
have it up
Pat
in front of
Shurmur?
me.
Oh.
Yeah, I did.
Frank Reich was the OC at one point.
Giants
oh my
coach.
God. Yeah, Frank Reich was the OC.
Reich and Steichen. Yeah, the injury stuff you said white flag. I don't know if it's that bad, but it's close, right? Because I guess if they're hurt, they're hurt. But Brian Burns and Dexter Lawrence, your defense is bottom. If both of those guys are out, there's not a lot of the juice outside of those guys. Like, where's the good play come from? That's not them. Andrew Thomas out for the year after surgery. Malik Neighbors,
that was the other one. Thank you.
Probably coming back. Like, Andrew Thomas matters. He's a good tackle.
Yeah.
Malik Neighbors probably coming back. Wandale has an ankle injury. He was limited. Slayton has a groin injury. He's limited. Singletary still has his groin injury. He's limited. So pretty beat up team against, for all accounts, outside of Mailata and Goddard, pretty healthy. I think you can probably beat a shitty team without Goddard and Mailata. I'm not going to wager money that that's true, though. Daniel Jones bad.
Let me
So
see
yeah,
here.
this is a pass for me. I make Philly value here even after a downgrade. It's still a pass.
They're not offering me a cash out on my Giants, but that's not
I
good.
don't hate it. What I mean, it's not been a secondary you can trust. If Neighbors is healthy, maybe he just has a game.
I don't have equity on it either, so that's fine. Well, yeah. What a mess. I hope
Afternoon
Neighbors
games
gets announced in and the market moves, and maybe I'll
Just cash out.
no, I
You're
was
just-
I don't know. I don't know what it's going to take to move to 2.5. It's probably not going to. It's exactly where I bet it right now. Okay.
Lane
well,
Johnson was
whatever.
in. Yes.
Whatever. God damn it. All right, let's move to the afternoons. The nooner, the 4 o'clockers for you, the 1 o'clockers for me.
It's 3.
Wow.
Noon and 3.
Noon and 3. Wow. 3. These 2 games that are kicking off at 4:05 they're sus, man. The Raiders
I think we're
at the
probably
Rams.
just gonna watch the Chiefs game, right?
Yeah. The Rams are coming off a bye. The Raiders are going to have home field advantage in LA, one would assume. The Raiders are playing without Devontae Adams, and the market moved when the Devontae Adams trade happened. Did you see that? Like, why would it have moved on that? Because was there someone that legitimately thought, well, maybe Adams is going to go for the Raiders?
He's gonna play.
No,
Yeah.
why? That was really strange. Maybe it moved because they thought there were other trades coming from the Raiders, that the Raiders were doing a little bit of old selling a spree. But I can tell you this much: the Raiders' offense, run by Aiden O'Connell, sucks out loud. The Rams' defense, which is not very good, is probably going to have no problems covering this Raiders' offense. I think it's amazing that the only good player on the Raiders' offense might be Brock Bowers. Is that outrageous to say out loud? Is there who's the second best player on the Raiders' offense right now?
Jacoby Myers, but he hasn't been playing.
He hasn't been playing.
Yeah, he missed last week with an injury. Sounds like he's trending in. That's a sneaky fantasy play, right? He's going to get a better chunk of pass targets, I suppose, with Trey Tucker and DJ Turner as your other. And DJ Turner is confusing because DJ Turner is also a cornerback for a different team, which is annoying.
Is this screaming at you? Get right for Rams.
It kind of is. This was one of the look-aheads I played because it was 4. I couldn't make sense of that. This was -4. I'm like, wow, I'm probably gonna play that. That seems silly. Got some instant equity on that.
7.
I don't know if it should be up. I don't know if it should be up to 7. But at the same time, the Rams are off the bye. If Cooper Kupp plays, then maybe it should be 7. It sounds like he has a sporting chance to play in this game. Obviously, like we said, Devontae Adams will not play in this game as he is on a different team at this point in his career. So that's going to be tough for him to pull off. And otherwise, the Rams are getting healthier. Noteboom's not coming back, but I don't think that's like he just opened his window. It's not like Joe Noteboom's changing the season. Zamir White was back to practice, and then Jacoby Myers was practicing as well. So bonuses for the Raiders offense, but I don't have this, this defense rated terribly low. For the Rams.
Which defense? The Rams?
The Rams. It's not good, but I don't think it's like bad. And when it plays a bad team off the bye, I'd still give them a bit of an advantage here.
Okay.
They have been good at run stop. So the Rams have been one of the decent run stop teams.
I have them very low coverage grade.
Yeah, that's the issue. It's like when they're up against a good offense that can throw the ball.
Yeah, who's busting that though? No one. Yeah.
So the EPA per play doesn't look good on run, but I think some of that's going to be opponent based. So this is opponent adjusted. I don't think the Rams defense is horrid. So,
okay.
I mean, at 7, it's probably like bet the Raiders, but. Is that something you want to do with a
no?
What do you think the psyche of the team is like? Are they happy or are they sad Devontae got traded?
Probably happy.
I think it was just one of those. Well, it's probably one of those things. There's
got to be a healthy sentiment of fuck that guy, and now that it's done,
That's
now
what
that
I'm
it's
saying.
done, there's probably glad
Like a
he's
sigh of
no
relief.
longer a distraction.
Yeah, it felt like it was always going to happen, and it just loomed over them like some pall for weeks. It probably feels good that it's done with.
Madison's only minus 37 rushing yards over expectation in the past 2 games. Madison,
Yeah, like Samir White.
what
Samir
is
White's
he
not
doing out there?
Well,
What are these guys doing out
so
there?
that's the issue with this game is like the Rams defense can stop the run against a bad running game.
It's especially funny because
So they're going to have to
those
throw.
are plucking guys off of the practice squad who are laying the world on fire. Jordan Mason is one of your best running backs in the league, Andy. Who? Jordan Mason. Did I even get his name right?
Yeah.
I think I did, right?
You did.
Roy
Jalen
Davis
Daniels
is actually Ray Davis. We know that. I'm making a joke. Yeah, they can't get anything going with Madison or White. It may be Amir Abdullah time, or maybe kick the tires on old Dylan Laube. Dylan Laube? Anyone?
No. What's your fair?
Do you have any read on Dylan Laube? 6 and change. Can't get to 7, but is there a Rams wide receiver comeback expected here? Why is this so positive for the Rams offense, I guess? Because I don't like let me tell you, I have Rams getting to 24.4 points. The market has them at 24.4 also. So I guess I'm higher on the Raiders scoring than the market, which doesn't make any sense.
The Rams, it's another one. We're out of sight, out of mind. We didn't see them play last week, but they did some serious Sean McVay making chicken salad out of chicken shit with the Whittinghams and whatever running backs have been available. They've been running the ball well, and the pass game hasn't been horrible, all things considered, losing Kupp and Nakua. So it's not been a bad defense or a bad offense, and it's going up against, this is the worst running defense in the league. So essentially, you won't have to stack your boxes. You will be able to keep your safeties deep. You'll be able to keep anybody who can help you in coverage from a linebacker spot helping in coverage. You should be able to take away anything O'Connell does. Like, this could just be it feels just like an ugly, like 21-8 kind of game.
Huh.
I do lean under here. I don't want to bet it because I already have some Rams. Opener was 44, or excuse me, look ahead was 44, dropped down to 43.5. That's about where it's sitting. Some places did open a little higher, it looks like. I'm going to look at the bet online number here. I thought it was 44, 43.5 for an opener. We're sitting pretty steady. I don't know what you make this total.
I make it 44.2.
And we're on to Carolina then.
All right, let's talk about the battle of the Southeast teams. This game, god damn, dude. Washington has they used to have Charlotte as the territory for the Redskins fans back in the day. They owned the Southeast until the Panthers came along. There will be a little bit of local jawing, I would imagine, in the Charlotte
the older
in
folks,
the Charlotte pubs among the older folks. Except you're gonna have to find Panthers fans to jaw with, which might be tough. The commies have rocketed up my rankings, and their offense is sort of leading the charge here. My fair is 8.7, and my fair total is 52.3. I think this is going to be a fun game from a scoring output standpoint, but I really would expect Washington to be able to do some serious damage here on the scoreboard. And I guess Washington's defensive injuries, particularly the injury to Jonathan Allen, make me wonder how they're getting any pressure at all on Carolina. And if Carolina and Andy Dalton can kind of have an accurate day passing the football against a weak secondary, they should be able to score an answer. So for those reasons, I'm not really running to the window to lay the points with Washington, but I get why the market is where it is. Anything that really stands out to you in this one, Andy?
This This was another look ahead that I looked at kind of cross-eyed. I don't like the totals this early, but 48.5 last week was a little off. We're up to what, 52, 51, 51.5, 52, depending where you're at. That makes sense. This feels very similar to last week, where this is an incredible passing offense against just a shitty dead team that has a bad defense is going to give up 20 points, even if half it's in garbage time. Like, if we had the exact same scores last week, 38-20, that surprise you?
No.
Like, it feels very feasible. And, let's just say somewhere in that range, 31-20, 35-24. It does feel like
Carolina could do better than 20.
Carolina should get something going because, like you said, Jonathan Allen matters a lot. That was the strength of this defense, that interior pressure they were getting. That was actually starting to help some of the edge rushers get moving. And now you have Jonathan Allen on the IR. They put two defensive ends. No, one on the IR, one in practice day. Dorrance Armstrong, DNP. He was hurt in last week's game. And then Javonte Jean-Baptiste was also put on the IR. He's a defensive end. Brian Robinson was practicing, which is nice for the offense, but yeah, it's kind of over nothing, and this total's already been pumped up a little to 51.5. I think if you like that, you probably play some alts. You probably play some, looking at how low the Carolina team total is going to be. What is it? 20, kind of 21.5 range? Fuck that. I'm not doing that. That's I think they can get there, but boy,
no thanks.
It's not a spot.
You don't have an interest in that?
Carolina team total over?
That's pretty low. And they're going to be, they're either going to be successful early and be sniffing that relatively young in the game clock, or they're going to be in comeback mode. And
I think if you like the Carolina team total over, you just like the over. If Carolina pushes the Washington offense to have to score 30, this game's going over in the third quarter, right? And then you don't have to get as cute because there's other pass
rush. There's no pass rush on either side of the ball here, really.
No, none whatsoever. Both quarterbacks
is the only guy who can do anything.
This is just
the line should be able to protect.
It's a shittier version of Houston Green Bay.
Yeah,
I hate to because Washington's very good. They're fun. I hate to put that. But yeah, like Andy Dalton's gonna be slanging.
Yeah, he is.
Carolina injury report wasn't great, but it is still early in the week.
Do they have any good players that we have to be worried about not playing?
Well, if you want this to go well,
Deontay Johnson needs to be out there.
You want Deontay Johnson. He didn't practice with his ankle. Taylor Moton didn't practice with his elbow. Excuse me. That was offensive lineman. Clowney's limited. I don't know that he matters anymore. Tremble is limited, so he's at least practicing. He was a concussion victim 2 weeks ago. Those are guys I want to see. Chuba Hubbard was out, but that was just clearly a rest day, is what they said. If I'd like the defensive injuries to trend poorly, and then the offensive injuries to trend well. And again, I like an over here, even at the inflated price. Okay,
well, hopefully the Washington story stays positive. And bummer for this Carolina fans, man. They've had now twice in 3 weeks. They've just had to look in the face of what they could have had this year if they had their first overall pick with Caleb Williams and now Jaden Daniels. All right, KC at San Fran. We have a Super Bowl rematch, Andy. Not sure if you've heard people talk about that, but this was. Oh, and we also, by the way, we missed the Saquon Barkley revenge angle in that Giants game. It's a factor, right?
He's downplaying it.
He's downplaying it, yeah.
I don't think they'll boo me.
I don't think they'll boo me.
They will.
Buddy. KC at San Francisco. We have a little bit of an opportunity for Mr. Shanahan to get some revenge that will not matter nearly as much as winning the last game you had to play against these guys, but that's fine. I played some San Francisco here. I think this is a good matchup for them. I know Kansas City and Andy Reid are, hold on if you've heard this before, coming off of a bye, and they tend to do quite well coming off of a bye. However, I don't think they match up especially well with San Francisco as currently constituted, and I kind of want to pay to see how this offense is able to go score for score with the San Francisco offense that is finally kind of coming into its its regular season stride, hitting its regular season stride. Kansas City defense is very good, but really hasn't been tested effectively other than week 1 against Baltimore, and that was a little uneven from Baltimore. So this is a huge step up in competition for KC, and I think that's going to matter.
Yeah, it just feels like it feels like one of those uncomfortable games where somebody's going to feel real silly at the end of the game.
Oh, you mean someone who bet KC or San Francisco is going to be like, God damn it.
Yeah, I should have seen this coming, because like we haven't seen the best from Kansas City as they've tried to figure out what this offense is and have gone through a couple of injuries, missing their best running back, missing their best wide receiver. Didn't end up making a trade like the other teams did. There's still time. We've got a few weeks for the deadline. Maybe they go after, who's Tennessee's number 1? I was thinking Hopkins. That's been kind of bandied around. Maybe they do go get somebody. Maybe they get Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Oh, God, somebody made the same joke as me in the chat. Yeah, it's funny. They're just going to bring back the guys they used to have. He did get cut today, so he could end up on the team. But it's one of those where 95% of me says this is a San Francisco spot because of the matchup. It's a tough defensive matchup for them. But, I mean, even against a really good Flores defense, we saw some success in the second half. This is it's an offense that can adjust as long as it's not a playoff game. I've seen enough out of Shanny where he's able to make it work again, even without Christian McCaffrey. It feels like it does. Does Kansas City care off their bye against a good team? How much they want to put on tape? They've got their Super Bowls. They're undefeated. They're looking at probably another 1 seed. Go back to another Super Bowl. This is a team you might face. Like, are they going to go out there and
are they getting up? It's kind of
the old joke we always make. Are they going to run the good plays?
Bring out the good plays? Yeah.
Are they going to run the good plays?
Or do they have any good plays? Because they only have one good player in the skill position group, and his name is Travis Kelce, and he's spent a lot of time with Taylor Swift watching baseball. Andy, I don't know.
And Kansas City off the bye, but the Niners are off 9 days rest too.
This is a very weak rest advantage, and in fact, I would argue, and maybe I will argue this in hindsight after San Francisco wins and covers, that being able to be in the facility for that entire time may be an advantage over you got to let the guys go home for 1 week, and you're not really, it's just the coaches doing homework for the first week of your bye week now, as opposed to kind of starting to implement, working on stuff and getting guys kind of acclimated to the way you want to run your game plan against Kansas City. So, I played San Francisco here again. Like, I don't really love anything this week, but I do think this is a beauty of a spot for them. I mean, I don't know if it's San Francisco's year, but I do know they want revenge from the Super Bowl. So I got that going for me.
It's been a tough team to figure out. We had the Seattle game. I don't know what your takeaways from that were. It feels like a long time ago at this point, but I don't know. It didn't feel like a dominant performance, despite what the scoreboard looks like.
Well, they gave up a stupid bonkers kickoff return, right?
I know, but even looking at like what their offense should have been able to do against a bad defense, and now they go up against a much, much better defense.
Yeah,
I worry about their score. Like, I'm not saying I'm thinking about bad at Kansas City. I could only go San Francisco in this one. I'm saying the Niners defense really has to show up. I don't know that the offense is going to go put up 36 points. They're obviously not scheduled to.
Do you have a read on Charvarius Ward's availability?
50-50.
Oh, fuck, really? Oh, boy. Do you have a read on San Francisco is going to have a really tough time, I think, getting their running game going against Kansas City's run defense. Kansas City's run defense has quietly been one of the most outstanding units across all of football so far this year. Yeah. And if they can kind of force Brock Purdy to get it done on low probability 3rd and long type of stuff, then maybe he turns into a pumpkin a bit in this game. We'll see. But I do think that the matchup for the pass rush for the San Francisco is being a little overlooked. Nick Bosa should have himself a solid day against the very weak tackles that Kansas City's trotting out there. And I don't know if he'll ultimately get to Pat Mahomes because Pat Mahomes' escapability is second to none. But hopefully Bosa can flex a bit.
Ward was full practice today. So this is what
Okay.
sucks about doing the show on Wednesdays. You don't get the West Coast practice reports till like 20 minutes ago. Okay, Ward is good. Mustafa is ruled out already.
Yes,
so they're
on the corner pulling in safeties. That's not great.
Yeah, you're down a couple safeties. Malik Collins was a DNP up front. Jordan Elliott, another DT, was limited. So this is where I'm staying away from this game because of some of the injuries to this San Francisco defense. Where
okay,
it's like, hey, it's still Andy Reid.
Okay, what about people are billing this as a matchup of defensive players of the year between Chris Jones and Nick Bosa? Do you buy into that? I just made that up.
Is that your thing? I was gonna. So that's my homework.
Does this matter though for awards? Right? Like, does this game matter for awards?
Too
like
early.
MVP race between Purdy and Mahomes is going to be a factor.
Way too early.
Too early.
I mean,
it matters for Purdy. Like, if Purdy loses this game outright, then his MVP chances become very small. Wow. Right?
But like winning this game, no one gives a shit about this in 10 weeks.
Okay.
We've seen this year in and year out where it's been like the last 3 games.
That's all that matters.
Flipping thing you have to. It's not all that matters. You have to be in the conversation. So it's like getting there. It's kind of like fantasy football. You know, the thing about fantasy football, yes, you have to draft well. Yes, you have to play the waiver wire, but then it's just fucking luck in the end. It's the same thing. You gotta get hot. You gotta do all the things right to get in the conversation in the last 4 or 5 weeks, and then things have to work. And then yes, I'll give Fred Warner some love. Fred Warner might be the best linebacker in football, man.
Yeah,
he's an animal.
All right. I played some Niners. I don't love it, but I like it. Night game of all of these amazing matchups this week. Somehow, some
nobody would swap with them.
Jets Pittsburgh is our Sunday night football game, but there's like crazy narratives in this one now that Devontae Adams and the Jets are fun to talk. No, people can't help but talk about the Jets, man. Tripping over themselves to have takes on the Jets. And Pittsburgh Steelers now maybe doing the old quarterback switcheroo in the weirdest kind of defense for why this is happening that I've like heard in a while.
Well, they're 2-4. He's been losing games, and they have a proven commodity that's looked good for years sitting behind him. I mean, in bizarro world, it is like
it's weird.
Justin Fields hasn't been amazing, but they have a winning record, and I don't know if it was like a promise they made to Russ, and
I think that's what it sounds like. Isn't that kind of you're putting the pieces together that Tomlin basically
honor this?
Tomlin is it's part of the voodoo magic that Tomlin subscribes to, where he's like, if I don't honor the promise I made to Russ, then I'm going to be stricken down by the voodoo instead of my opponent. But it has not felt like Justin Fields needs to get the old hookaroony here. Justin Fields right now on the CPOE EPA per play scatter plot, you know where he kind of falls? A smidge to the left of CJ Stroud, a smidge to the right of Pat Mahomes, right next to Geno Smith, Darnold, above Trevor Lawrence, Aaron Rodgers, Jalen Hurts, Caleb Williams, Justin Herbert. I mean, guys who there's still small sample size here, but Fields is doing fine, and I don't get it.
He's playing within the system. They've had a good run scheme. The defense is good, and they're well coached. Like, it's fine. It feels like a weird promise that they made. That, hey, once you're healthy, we promise we'll play you. Like, fuck, we didn't think he'd get healthy. Like,
don't you get more credibility with the locker room and with Fields himself? If you're like, look, man, we made Russell a promise in the preseason that if he signed for $1 million, we were going to start him if he was healthy. But guess what? You've been so good. Like, don't you just inject confidence in him if you if you just say, hey, man, we believe in you. Just keep going out there and doing your thing.
It's crazy that in this game, it's not the Jets that we're talking about having the weirdest fucking front office coaching personnel issue.
Yeah.
Or it's like, Rodgers going and getting Devontae Adams. I don't know what to make of this. It's a downgrade on offense. I'm going to downgrade the offense, and I wanted to give him credit. It's funny. The first thing you led with is like everybody wants to talk about the Jets. I pulled up the Athletic podcast today because it was going to be Mays, and I don't remember who joined him later on, but they were going to do some tiers, like which teams are Super Bowl or bust, which teams are, locked into the playoffs. They had 6 tiers, and they were going to go through it. And before they got into that, they brought on Rosenblatt, the beat reporter for the Jets, for like 20 minutes of Jets talk. And it was fine. It was fine because it was good stuff. I did want to give him credit on this because with Zach Frazier hurt and Russ Wilson under center, who's less mobile, and he brought this up and enunciated better than I am. It's like, where does the Jets' pressure come from? Up the
Interior.
middle.
Yeah,
absolutely. Where are you hurt of the offensive line? At the center spot. Which quarterback is much worse at sack avoidance at this point in his career? Like, it just feels like the complete wrong move that's going to hurt the passing game. It's going to hurt the run game. It's going to hurt the offense. And I'm not like excited to bet the Jets, but this feels like a spot where you might have to bet the goddamn Jets.
What have you made of the Jets offense? And did you feel like, because like the Jets look very similar to Seattle to me, which is they can't get their running game going to the tune of forcing defenses out of light boxes, which has been a problem because then they're immediately 50. You have 50 attempts. You don't want all of these attempts. You're at a deficit early. Right. Like there's lots of negative consequences of the fact that they can't really get the run schemed well.
Breece Hall was a lot better last week, but that's a easier team to run on than what you're
going to face. Surely. Like by a lot.
By a lot.
And there were moments where specifically the running game failing kind of fucked them. The penalties and like the histrionics and all that other shit were so bananas that maybe it's tough to really pin anything on one factor, but it certainly felt like outside of the early scripted stuff that the running game had a tough time to get.
On a podcast before?
No, I don't think so.
Doesn't feel like that's come into play. I love it. There was a lot of failings the last 2 weeks for the Jets. I mean, last week it was play calling, it was scheme, it was play sequencing, and the week before against Minnesota, it was Rodgers giving that game away with some bad interceptions. If they clean that stuff up, we've been saying this for the entirety of the season, this is a good team on paper. The defense is worse than we thought it'd be preseason. Will McDonald has 7 sacks, but it's still not a good pass rush. And they haven't been able to get the run going. Rodgers has been inconsistent. I don't know how quickly we can integrate, Devontae Adams into this, but I would think it'd be fine. He has some history with the quarterback. And, we got a lot out of Lazard last week somehow. It's turned into Rodgers as well. I'm going to do what I'm comfortable with and make this offense hum a little bit. They still lost. They had chances to win that game. They probably could have, should have, would have won that game, losing by 3 to Buffalo. So this is
at the same time, though, you couldn't win with the Hail Mary.
I mean, it's not like with other teams. Just expect that from Rodgers.
Yeah,
I did want them to get a little. I wanted them to get the stop and have both ends. Can you imagine if the first and second half both ended on successful Hail Marys?
Yeah.
We've been talking about this game for 100 years.
So to answer this question from Sam, do we think Adams got the playbook last week? We think he got it 2 weeks ago, but was a different playbook.
He slept in Rodgers' guest room last night, man.
Everybody that we were talking to said this was the done deal a while ago. I don't know what the hell took so long to actually finally concrete it, but whatever. All right.
Jets for me. I'm probably going to play the Jets here.
Goddamn.
Jets. It is truly the buy low spot in New York now.
The Jets defense has some red flags worth monitoring. I don't think it's going to matter in this game for all the reasons you brought up about the center issues and the quarterback change, but the Jets defense can be run on. I think the Jets defense, to me, have a Mendoza line problem where if your quarterback is above the Mendoza line, then they're going to look, they potentially can get beat. But if your quarterback is not, then they look all universe. And I would put Russell Wilson in the latter category. So Jets defense should look pretty damn good this week. We'll see.
All right, Monday Night Football, Baltimore at Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay.
Fucking secretly a super good game. God damn, this one is going to be good.
I hate that they're double dipping. This is the last double.
I could not care less about Chargers Cardinals.
It's a weird spot. Not only are we doing this, but the bye weeks have gotten all wonky. There are no teams on bye next week.
Oh, how about that?
In the middle of bye season, they just said, no, everybody plays this week.
Is it sweeps week or something? What the hell?
Sweeps. I don't know if people understand that reference. We're so old. Baltimore at Tampa. Obviously, Tampa looked good, but a little inconsistent at times against the Saints team.
They can run now, though, somehow.
They can run now. I think Rachaad White was just not good. We're finding this all over the league.
We're learning this. We're learning things.
I'm not going to go say Christian McCaffrey's not good.
Also, Dave Canales might not have been very good.
These backup court running backs are coming in like, oh, fuck, you're fine. Not Ty Chandler. But yeah, Dave Canales, that was one of my hot takes.
That was one of your hot takes. I like that one.
And a big part of it is coming to fruition. They are running less on early downs, letting Baker cook. Because last year it was run, 3rd and 8. Baker bails him out.
Yeah.
It's great. That's how it rhymed. That was the rhyme that they used to describe Canales. And Liam Cohen is doing a lot less running on first down, letting Baker cook earlier, and they're getting big plays. They have the wide receivers to do it.
Yes.
Dallas and Chicago are on buys this week, but next week no one will be on buy.
Amazing.
In week 8.
No buys week 8. Okay.
No buys week 8. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think that's what I saw in my schedule. Also, but Baltimore had a pretty complete game.
Okay.
It's like both these teams kind of coming in high. This was another look at. I played at 4. If this gets to 3, I will play back because I didn't think Baltimore was going to look quite that good. They looked like an unstoppable run team. This is a offensive line. This is my main point in this game was this offensive line looked like hammered dog shit to start the season. We're like, oh no, they had to replace 3 pieces. This kid from Minnesota's no good. This other guard's no good. Like, we are having big problems here. And whatever's happened between the offensive coordinator, the positional coaches, and obviously Derrick Henry getting more comfortable in this offense, it hasn't mattered anymore. If you look at some metrics, it's like, well, this isn't a good offensive line. Go look at like run block win rates. Go look at pass block win rates. Like all these metrics are pointing to like, no, this is actually a good offensive line, which it's a good team scheming around a problem and making the offensive line look fine by creating good matchups, good mismatches, and this is a dangerous offense. Yeah, it's dangerous, especially on the ground. So. Not quite sure. I still think it's a lot to lay when it was 4, but I don't know how you stop this run attack. Get the ball back for Baker.
This is crazy. I'll comment on the game in a second, but just to close the loop, no buys week 8 is correct. There's also no buys week 13. We do have 6 teams on bye week 12 and another 6 on bye week 14. So 12 and 14 are going to be especially weird.
Ever since they stopped having that old couple from like Overland Park, Kansas, put the schedule together and
it's gotten weird.
Went to Amazon. It's gotten weird.
You know why else there are no buys week 13 is because that's Thanksgiving and they have 3 games on Thursday and 1 on Friday. So they needed everybody available for Saturday for Sunday.
I forgot we're doing Black Friday again.
Yeah. All right. It's not a good game, by the way.
Tampa's run defense, a little below average. Overall, the defense has been above average, in my opinion.
Yes, me too.
Even missing some players. Antoine Winfield back matters a lot. Vita Vea has been a god, Polynesian god right now in the middle. Not only stopping the run, but he's been eating up blocks and getting some pass rush under his belt as well. So with Cansey missing, Winfield missing, Vea missing, like what they've put on tape and what they've put on paper for stats so far is actually pretty impressive for this Tampa defense. And I think it's going to get better.
Yeah. The Tampa covers this game if they can take advantage of the pass funnel that is the current state of Baltimore defense. I think correct line should be 2.6. So this is Tampa or pass for me. I think the correct total should be 49. So this is over or pass for me. And oh no, I'm sorry, it's already up to 49.5. I didn't see that move.
Yeah.
Did you see that move?
Yeah, it checks out.
This moved a lot. All right, I agree with that 100%. 49.5 now. Wow. Okay. I'm at 49.3, so I agree. And yeah, I think both the total get home and Tampa covers if they can protect the way they have been, and Mayfield can take advantage of his 1v1s with Godwin and Evans. Those guys are fucking rock, man. They're awesome. And yeah, Tampa's offense right now is way good. So and so is Baltimore's. So this is going to be a shootout, I think.
Baltimore's fairly healthy as well. Tampa Bay obviously getting back. Keep an eye on Jamel Dean. He was ruled out last week. I didn't get an update on him yet.
Can you kind of do a little bit of brainstorming for me on something? We watched week 1, and one of the obvious takeaways of at halftime and after the game was, man, these wide receivers for Baltimore cannot separate to save their lives.
Oh God,
these guys have amazing separation grades. Flowers and Bateman both. They've gotten graded well since then. Is that opponent related? And are they going to have a come back to earth moment against a Tampa secondary that is playing better and now has Winfield back? Like, I guess where I'm at is, does the wide receiver core for Baltimore, are they good or do they suck? Or is it just a factor of they're getting to scheme them into open space against heavy sets? Because you have to dedicate 7 guys to stopping the run, or you're never going to see the ball back.
Yeah, it's probably a Monken thing against bad defenses, because I don't think Flowers or I think Flowers is better than Bateman, but Bateman seems to get a lot of targets as well. I don't know. It's been, where are we looking at separation grades? PFF?
Yeah.
I might have to dig in. There's other places do grading on that now, and there's been big disagreements on separation stuff between the charters. And I don't know that PFF has the best charters anymore.
Okay.
Some of the fantasy points data, the FTNs, there's some other places I think might have better data on that. I'm gonna dig in on that, because just from the eye test, it doesn't feel like they're separating great. Where there's been some broken plays, there's been some open receivers, but it's not, hey, I'm beating guys one-on-one.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
a lot of it is just, hey, you have to bring people up to stop Henry, and if they're able to find spots in a lighter zone, that's happening.
I don't know how to separate. I don't know how to filter on pro.nfl.com, unfortunately, which is annoying me. But yeah, you're right. So these guys are not anywhere close to the top of separation scores or separation distances on NFL.com. In fact, they're way down there. Bateman and Flowers. Flowers is getting 4.2 average separation, but Bateman is getting 4.1. That's good, but it's not great. That would qualify for.
I struggle with separation.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I struggle with the separation numbers when it comes to what kind of defense are you playing against? Is it? I want to see. I want to see it broken down.
I take it back. It is good, because most of the guys at the top of the average separation list are running backs. Almost all of them, actually. And running backs and Jordan Whittington.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. That the context you needed there is are you really good separator, or is this a team with a great running game and you're constantly seeing light secondaries in some sort of weak ass zone and you're just finding space? Because you talk about those running backs getting space. What are those? What do those plays look like? Are those all dump offs out of the backfield where the cornerback's 9 yards deep coming off the receiver to come get you? So I don't know. I'm gonna do some look into this. I like Tampa. Obviously, I played them.
The best separators among wide receivers, number 1 is Jordan Whittington of the Rams. Number 2 is Jaden Reed of the Green Bay Packers. And, knocking on the door, knocking right now, Khalil Shakir and the Zay Flowers is knocking on the door of the top 5. So I guess even just the average separation is noteworthy there. It's interesting. Anyway, I don't have a good answer, but I'm probably going to play the Bucks here. I'm a moth to the flame when
you've played them
3.5
too much.
I'm under
Just
3.
keep playing them.
I'm a moth to the flame when it's under 3, and when I'm under 3 and it's 3.5, I feel like even if you lose these bets, you're still like, well, I got the best of I got the right side of the key. Yeah. So Bucks for me.
Okay.
Chargers are playing the Cardinals. If you can price the Chargers or Cardinals, drop into my DMs. Tell me how to do it. I don't understand either of these teams. I know the Chargers defense is not good. I'm sorry. I know the Cardinals defense is not good. I have no idea if the Cardinals offense is good. I think the Chargers defense is better than average, but I know it's not as good as the market thinks it is. And I have no idea if the Chargers offense is good. Where are you on any of those factors?
Yeah, even it wasn't like an impressive. It wasn't an impressive performance against the Broncos, and the scoreboard is jacked up. It shouldn't even have been that close. They were able to score early, but it was J.K. Dobbins doing that. I don't know if that's super sustainable. You did, you win against the secondary where I think it was the first drive that Surtain went out on. And it was pretty immediate that you were able to take out one of their best players. So I don't know what to make of this Chargers offense. I wish I'd had time to watch that play or that game again. I don't know that I wanted to. I don't have a good rating on them. I think they get a weird bump for the coaching. Like they are just well coached. They're doing things with lesser than players because it feels like this is a much worse roster than what they put out offensively last year. And at the same time, it's like, well, they're playing good enough. Like they could win games. And yeah, Arizona's defense is abhorrent. Green Bay probably could have put 50 up if they would have, had to try for big chunks of the late part of that game. Hell, they even missed a field goal, which kudos. We didn't mention that. The Green Bay Packers are making a field goal kicker change.
Oh, thank you.
They have signed
Brandon
McManus, who he can really kick it quite a while. If you want more info on that, Google Brandon McManus flight because he sends the ball in flight. Nothing problematic about him. It's just like we talked about the other day. You just let it go for 5 months and people forget all about any sort of when you tried to turn a flight attendant into a stripper by throwing money at her. Cardinals offense. I was really, really shocked that they didn't show up. People who played over 47 in that game, I guess they deserve better. That one stayed under, didn't it? Yeah, it was right on.
Barely, yeah.
Right on. There was maybe a 46.5 in the market, but a lot of 47.5s. Like the fact that game stayed under was kind of a crime. Like we talked about this with Green Bay. It's not that Green Bay got pressure. They didn't sack him. They're just, I don't know, they're kind of running out of juice. It was Trey McBride was back, and he actually had a good day, but nobody else was really contributing. Benson didn't run well. It's a Green Bay, it's a good Green Bay defense. It's starting to get better. We're seeing things like I dogged on their pass rush, but other than that, it has been a good Green Bay defense. So maybe I'm just low on the Green Bay defense, but outside of McBride, like none of these other wide receivers are really doing much to contribute. And then Harrison got concussed. Keep an eye on that. I think maybe without Harrison, you might see more of the same.
Okay. Well, I'm a loss to handicapping this one because I don't understand what the right price for the Chargers defense is. I had intended to go down swinging, fading them until they were correctly priced. The Chargers defense, that is, but I'm still like, I don't know how or what the Chargers plan is, or the Cardinals plan is offensively in this game. And I was just wildly unimpressed with what they did against Green Bay.
I have a little juxtaposition, my numbers say my overall raw ratings without anything else thrown in say Arizona is slight value here at the price.
Yes,
But
me
then
too.
my secondary stuff says the Chargers offense has a big to very big advantage on the offensive side of the ball, even if we don't fully understand how it works.
Yeah.
You know, why is the sky blue? How's the
All
posi
right,
track?
you ready? Over 43.5. Fire. I think that's the answer. Because I agree with you. I hadn't really looked at that, but you're absolutely right. My fair total is 46. I just wasn't really paying attention, and that's the right way to attack this one. That's the right way.
How much do you need at Arizona?
20.
20? I think 20 gets it there.
Yeah, 20, 24, 20, 23, 21. I think that's where you're home free.
We need a pod play. We didn't have a strong candidate throughout that.
Let me tell you what my numbers say the secret pod play ought to be. They say it ought to be Carolina team total over.
Oh God, are we gonna do that to people?
I think
That's a
so.
balls on.
What do you think?
Balls on the table.
I don't know. It's so low, and this is a bet. I mean, like how many chances are you going to get to bet team total over against the Washington defense when it's in the low 20s like this? Not very often, I feel like.
All right, we're gonna need some garbage time. We'll make it Carolina. Good God. that vomitous taste.
All right. Got it. Locked
Bob.
in. It's locked in.
Carolina.
We got a situation in old Long Island right here, man. Ooh. We got a bases loaded Walker Buehler pitch into Francisco Lindor down 2. Feels like a consequential at bat, if I do say so.
I like baseball this time of year.
I do too. Are you just enjoying it as a fan, I assume?
Yeah. It's I mean, the big game tonight is in the Target Center.
Okay.
Do
you want to talk about programming notes?
Baby.
Programming notes? We're going to do our Thursday Night Football per the usual, right?
So here's the thing, Drew. You said you wanted to do it at 6. The games start earlier on Monday because it's a double. Do you want to go?
Yeah.
Do you want to go? Can you go 3 Pacific?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, okay. I can.
It's just so late. We love doing those recaps on Monday rather than Sunday, but it's been so late at night. We want to do it before the Monday night game. So normally we're going to move the recap show to
the pregame for Monday Night Football.
Yeah, 7 p.m. Eastern time pregame, an hour and 15 before. But since this week we have the double dumb shit, we're going to go a little earlier. Now I'll text it out, make sure everyone knows. So we will do the recap before the games start on Monday night.
Walker Buehler gets out of trouble. Wow.
Are you a Dodgers fan this year?
Yeah, man. Are you kidding? Love the Dodgers.
I bleed blue, baby.
Me and Vin Scully, we go way back. You kidding? Actually, my father-in-law, who grew up in the Pacific Palisades, was born in 1942. He was a Dodgers fan when they moved from Ebbets Field and played in the Coliseum back in the day. He was like one of the first people down there watching Dodgers play in the Coliseum before they moved to Chavez Ravine. So I cheer for the Dodgers so that we can bond over that. And he holds the 2020 World Series up as a little bit of a cheap one. He wants a real one.
You tell him that they cheated in 65.
What? Did they? Was that Sandy Koufax's last year?
I think so. That was a Minnesota World Series. That was like the Twins, when the Twins first went to Twins Dodgers. I think that was a Dodgers one. Go look at the pictures for that and tell me how the Twins were even in that. That's tough. I think Koufax went like 3 times.
Yeah, I think that was his last World Series, if I'm not mistaken. But I could be wrong. Sandy 3. That was his last of 3, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, Don Drysdale's. Oh my God.
He was a 4-time World Series champion: 55, 59, 63, and 65. That was his final World Series.
See, he did not start.
He was the MVP over the Twinks.
he did not. Well, he went 3 times, but he did not start Game 1 of that World Series because it fell on Yom Kippur.
You're shitting me.
No. He said won't do it. Will not do it. You put it's full Walter from Walter from Big Lebowski.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm not slinging the pill today. It's Yom Kippur. Put Drysdale out there. So Drysdale and Mudcat Grant. Twins won that game. Mudcat Grant was a very good pitcher. Koufax did go game 2.
Mudcat Grant was pretty solid.
Did go game 2. Lost that game. Twins
what?
2-0.
Oh shit! So Minnesota had a 2-0 lead.
Yeah, and then the wheels fell off low there. Drysdale went 4, Koufax went 5, and then Koufax came back and pitched Game 7 as well against Jim Cott, another Hall of Fame.
Damn, Jesus Christ, 2-0 in Game 7. That one was close. It was in Minnesota too. Bummer, man. You guys couldn't hold home field.
Metropolitan Field
in Bloomington, Minnesota.
If you tried to go there right now, you would be in a Five Below or a FAO Schwartz. That is where the Mall of America is.
I love it, man.
Fun fact, guys. All right. Well, that's what we were gonna obviously close with some 65 World Series trivia, as we often do. But we'll see you guys tomorrow night for
overtime. My special request to you, the listeners, for overtime on the live shows this week. Bring your NBA questions.
Yes,
I want to talk through my thoughts. I need to get them out there. I don't know if we're gonna have any other chances to do that. Would be cool if we could work something out.
I'm willing to sit down and do a standalone WNBA.
We need to find a good guest though, so we can get a little some new takes.
Let's talk to some people. I'm willing to put down a track.
Okay.
Question you guys.
The opening night is Tuesday, so we're running out of time.
Let's do it. Let's do it right now. All right, see you guys.